Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Karen Seymour Ells, and I am a member of the Board of Trustees here at DuPage Unitarian Universalist Church. I am the clerk on the Board of Trustees. We want to welcome everyone to our open and inclusive virtual community this morning. As Unitarian Universalists, we hold that there are many spiritual paths to truth and meaning, and we pledge to support one another as we walk those paths. We are so glad you were able to join us this morning for our live stream service. Please check the church website, dupageUUchurch.org, for updates. If you search under DuPage UU Church on Facebook, you will find other ways to be in community with us as well. This morning, we would love for you to join us for coffee hour after the service. The information on zooming into coffee hour should be in the order of service you received in an email. Thank you.
This is a picture of a Hindu murti, a religious statue made out of wood. This is a Hindu prayer before cutting a tree for a murti that was written about 500 BC. O tree, you have been selected for the worship of a deity. Salutations to you. I worship you according to the rules. Kindly accept it. May all who live in this tree find residence elsewhere. May they forgive us now. We bow to them. I'm a serious amateur student of religion and theology. It all started when a very long time ago, actually 1973, when I took an elective law school course on medieval canon law and learned how intimately and directly interrelated law and religion are. A few years ago, Agnes and I toured the Hindu temple on Route 59 in Bartlett. It's just a 20-minute drive from this Unitarian church, but in another world compared to the UU religious perspective. After taking the temple tour, I decided we had to go to India to learn more about Hinduism. We did that this January on a tour with a friend of Agnes's who is from Bangalore, India. I spent a year preparing for this trip. I read over 24 books about India, compiled my own 47-page glossary of Indian words, and I tried to make diagrams of the relationships between dozens of Indian gods. Hinduism is one of the world's 6 great religions. On this trip, I learned a lot about Hinduism. The purpose of the service is to share my personal religious observations with you. Why sitar music? We are exploring a different culture. Ever heard it before? Try listening to it for at least an hour and see what happens.
Our first reading this morning comes from the Bhagavad Gita, which was written in 200 AD. Bhagavad Gita means the song of the Lord Krishna. Chapter 4, verses 7 and 8, version 1. My true being is unborn and changeless. I am the Lord who dwells in every creature. Through the power of my own creative energy, I manifest myself in a finite form. Whenever Dharma declines and the purpose of life is forgotten, I manifest myself on earth. I am born in every age to protect the good, to destroy evil, and to reestablish Dharma. Version 2. Whenever righteousness wanes and unrighteousness increases, I send myself forth. For the protection of the good and for the destruction of evil and for the establishment of righteousness, I come into being age after age.
That sounded like two different readings. Not so. They are different translations of the same text. This is a picture of the actual Sanskrit text from the Bhagavad Gita. It is written on dried strips of palm leaves. If you read a Christian Bible passage, what version do you read? I hope you use the parallel Bible that has on the same page the New International Version, the American Standard Bible, the King James Version, and the New Living Translation. There is no equivalent publication for the classic Hindu texts, so if you do try to read them, try several different translations. Some versions of the Gita that are sold as new books today are based on translations that are over 100 years old. Why? The copyrights have expired, so old translations cost less to publish. Hinduism is the world's oldest religion, with roots and customs dating back more than 4,000 years. Today, with about 900 million followers, Hinduism is the third largest religion behind Christianity and Islam. Roughly 95% of the world's Hindus live in India. Because the religion has no specific founder, it's difficult to trace its origins and history. Unlike the other major religions, Hinduism is a fusion of various beliefs. Because it is so vast and complex, it's sometimes referred to as a way of life, not as a single organized religion. Hindus believe in the doctrines of samsara, the continuous cycle of life, death, and reincarnation, and karma, the universal law of cause and effect. Hindus believe in souls. All living creatures have a soul, and they're all part of the supreme one soul. The goal is to achieve moksha, or salvation, which ends the cycle of rebirth. Seems to me there are a lot of similarities between the concept of moksha and the universal salvation doctrine that is in the second U in DUUC. In Hinduism, your actions and thoughts directly determine your current life and your future life. Hindus live according to Dharma. Dharma is a moral code of living that emphasizes good conduct, ethics, and morality. It is the Christian 10 Commandments without the first. I happen to like Hindu morality and have no disagreements with its basic values. Hindus revere all living creatures and consider the cow a sacred animal. Hindus practice yoga. The basic postures were developed more than 2,000 years ago. Yoga, with controlled breathing and meditation, are important Hindu spiritual practices. Hinduism is closely related to other Indian religions, including Buddhism, Sikhism, and Jainism. I'm now going to mention the two prominent Hindu symbols. The first symbol is Om. It's simply composed of 3 Sanskrit letters, but it supposedly represents the sound of a sacred sound. In India, the symbol is everywhere you go. The second important symbol is the swastika. The word swastika means good fortune or be happy in Sanskrit, and the symbol represents good luck. Given its 20th century connotations with Nazism in Germany, it took me a while to get used to seeing swastikas everywhere. Third symbol is the yantra. This is a yantra. It's the Hindu version of the Buddhist mandala, a symbolic depiction of the universe. There are literally dozens of books that have been written explaining and interpreting the yantra. Yantra study is a form of Hindu mysticism. A little bit of history. Around 1500 BC, the Indo-Aryan people migrated to the Indus Valley. Their language and culture blended with that of the indigenous people living in the region. There's much academic debate about where the Aryans came from and how the Indo-European language groups evolved. What is clear is that there was an invasion, and the invaders came from somewhere in Central Asia, and they conquered the local folk around 1500 BC. They started writing the oldest Hindu religious text, known as the Vedas. The Vedic period lasted from about 1500 BC to 500 BC. The deplorable Hindu caste system evolved during this time, with the Brahmin priests on top of a very patriarchal society. Buddhism is very popular around here. Hinduism and Buddhism have many similarities. I did not know until I took this trip that Buddhism arose out of Hinduism. Both believe in reincarnation, karma, and a life of devotion and honor that is the path to salvation and enlightenment. But there are key differences. Buddhism rejected the Hindu social caste system. Buddhism does not have public rituals. Buddhism does not have a priesthood, and it doesn't follow the Hindu gods. However, Buddha is the 9th reincarnation of Vishnu. Technically, Buddha is a Hindu deity who just went off on the wrong path towards salvation. In the 7th century, the Muslim Arabs began invading India. During parts of the Muslim period, which was from about 1200 AD to 1757, Islamic rulers prevented Hindus from worshiping their deities and attacked their temples, just like the Taliban have done in Afghanistan today. But this was really interesting. This is why the statues you see in art museums have broken noses. Since Hinduism emphasizes ritual purity and artistic perfection, A damaged statue at the temple meant the temple could not be used for worship. That's why you see all the statues and all the art museums you've been to with a nose broken or an eye knocked out or an ear knocked off. Hindus worship many gods and goddesses in addition to Brahman, who is believed to be the supreme god. I won't take time to go through all the Hindu gods because it would take too long and probably not be all that interesting. However, I'm going to tell you about two of my favorites. Indra is the Vedic goddess of the heavens. You might remember that she appeared as the evil sorceress who tried to seduce Captain Kirk in the original Star Trek series. Are you a Harry Potter fan? Nagas are mythical, semi-divine beings that are half human and half cobra. In the Hindu creation myth, a Naga named Anatta carried Vishnu. A female Naga is a Nagini. No time to talk more about the gods, but no day is complete without learning at least one new word. I always thought Hinduism was polytheistic, many gods. In academic theology, it is henotheism. All deities are a manifestation of one Brahman in endless forms, so it's both monotheistic and polytheistic. Henotheism. Word about temples. As the slide shows you, the temples are everywhere. Just like you can spend days in Europe visiting churches, basilicas, and cathedrals, they are very different architecturally. In India, temples are also very different depending on when they were built. This is the diagram of the basic form of the classic Hindu temple. Now, what underlies the temple? It's this pattern. The design is a mystical interpretation of shapes based on the mystic yantra form that I showed you before. This is the architectural design that underlies the form of the temple as it's built of stone. A word about Hindu worship. Hindu worship is known as puja. It takes place both in the temples, and Hindus worship at home as well. Most homes have a special area that's the type of a shrine dedicated to their local god or goddesses. The giving of offerings is an important part of Hindu worship. It's a common practice to present gifts such as flowers or oils when you visit the temple. This slide shows you the basic offering package that you would take into the temple, and its mass production. Outside the temple we visited was this stack of offering plates that you would buy to take into the temple. You can see there's not much individuality involved in this. I have visited a lot of churches and attended a lot of services. Never before have I seen the priests in the church dressed in casual clothes and looking really like ordinary people. There is a reason why priests wear vestments and judges wear robes. I did not get a good answer when I asked why the priests in the temples were not dressed in distinctive attire. My maternal grandparents were Hungarian peasants who came to America as young children in 1888. My grandmother was a devout Roman Catholic, so I understand what worship means and how belonging to an organized religion gives meaning and order to daily life. The Hindu worship practices are in essence the same as my grandmother's at the psychological level. knowing the saint days, knowing the rituals, knowing the festival days, knowing when to go to the temple or the cathedral, gives order, meaning, and structure to daily life. I dislike the very word worship. I wish we did not use it here at all. What I saw in 3 weeks of India confirmed for me the truth of Mark's famous epigram that religion is the opiate of the masses. As a humanist, I do not worship any person or any belief, and think that the world would be a far better off if the idea of worship was replaced by individual responsibility for personal actions. However, I also realize that thinking about an auspicious, bright, and cheerful beginning to the day when I wake up would be a very good thing to do. I do not do that, and I think I should. That's what the Hindu morning prayer practice called arti involves. Add some yoga, like a sun salute, and you have a great way to start your day. I just do not want to call it worshiping. At this point, Kelly and Becky are going to lead us in singing the only Hindu hymn in English in the Gray Hymnal.
Our second reading comes from the Rig Veda, which was written around 1500 BC. One of the earliest expressions of reverence for the female aspect of God in Hinduism appears in chapter 10, verse 125. I am the queen, the gatherer up of treasures, most thoughtful, first of those who merit worship. Thus gods have established me in many places with many homes to enter and abide in. Through me alone all eat the food that feeds them. Each man who sees, breathes, hears the word outspoken. They know it not, yet I reside in the essence of the universe. Hear, one and all, the truth as I declare it. I, verily, myself, announce and utter the word that gods and men alike shall welcome. I rouse and order battle for the people. I created earth and heaven and reside as their inner controller. On the world's summit, I bring forth Sky the Father. My home is in the waters, in the ocean as mother. And thence I pervade all existing creatures as their inner supreme self and manifest them with my body. I created all worlds at my will, without any higher being, and permeate and dwell within them. the eternal and infinite consciousness, is I. It is my greatness dwelling in everything.
What do India and Israel have in common? The very land is part of the religion. India is saturated in religion everywhere. Hindu temples and Muslim mosques. Water wells decorated in Hindu art. Walls covered with Hindu signs and symbols, and advertisement for local gurus are everywhere. And the bindi on the forehead, that's the colored dot that is the third eye focusing inward on God. Religious symbols are endless and everywhere. And some god did something noteworthy about 1,500 years ago in every Indian location we visited. When you check into an American five-star hotel, you will not see a crucifix in the lobby. In India, you see this, the holy symbols of the Lord Shiva laid out in the lobby. When we arrived in India, the welcome package included this necklace I'm wearing. I asked what it was. It is half of a mala, the Hindu rosary. My mother's maiden name was Margaret Mary Martha McGahigan, so of course I went to a Roman Catholic church growing up. I had no idea another faith had and used a rosary. Turns out prayer beads were used in India at least 1500 BC. The Catholics just copied the idea. So did the Buddhists, the Muslims, and the Sikhs. Catholics use a rosary to circumambulate around the church following the signs of the cross. This is a Hindu temple. Like the other temple pictures I've showed you, the scale is vast. The scale of their buildings is just mind-blowing. Now, there's a sacred water well in front of this temple. It has 108 stone prayer stations, one for each of the 108 beads on the Hindu rosary. The idea of 3 as a sacred number also originated with the Hindus. The Hindu trinity is Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Welcome to the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. A little mention of food. Hindus believe that human beings and all animals are children of God, with a soul. Therefore, to eat an animal is an affront to God. Moreover, it's bad for your consciousness, because the slaughter of animals is violent. When you eat meat, fish, or fowl, you are subjecting yourself to violent thoughts and perhaps violent behavior. In Hinduism, cooking is intertwined with spirituality. Hindus believe that food absorbs the consciousness of the cook. Hindu philosophy claims that your emotions are transferred to your food and then to the person who eats the meal. It is one reason why monks don't go to restaurants, because it raises the question, whose consciousness are you eating today? I have never experienced such emotional focus on food and eating habits. An entirely new side of human nature for me. Have you ever seen a restaurant menu with 19 kinds of eggplant? I had no idea people took the act of eating vegetables so seriously. Kelly and Becky are now going to read responsive number 577 from the Gray Hymnal, which was written by Mahatma Gandhi.
is possible to live in peace. If someone with courage and vision can rise to lead in nonviolent action, the winter of despair can, in the twinkling of an eye, be turned into the summer of hope.
It is possible to live in peace.
Nonviolence is not a garment to be put on and off at will. Its seat is in the heart, and it must be an inseparable part of our being.
It is possible to live in peace.
Nonviolence, which is a quality of the heart, cannot come by an appeal to the brain. It is a plant of slow growth, growing imperceptibly but surely.
It is possible to live in peace.
If a single person achieves the highest kind of love, it will be sufficient to neutralize the hate of millions.
It is possible to live in peace.
If we are to reach real peace in this world, and if we are to carry on a real war against war, we shall have to begin with the children.
It is possible to live in peace.
The future depends on what we do in the present.
It is possible to live in peace.
Mahatma means great soul. Here is a picture of his ashram and a picture of the rule board. I would not want to live there very long. He lived a strict ascetic life, like you would in a medieval Christian monastery. I knew about Gandhi's political nonviolent opposition to British colonial rule. I did not know that for many years he lived as a Hindu monk. And when you read the rule set, which is up on the slide, he was a lawyer. It's written just like a statute would be written by a lawyer. I was just amazed to read the rules. With Gandhi's thoughts of peace now on our minds, we will now take our morning offering. We are going to close by visiting a new temple. This 100-acre temple complex was completed in 2005. It is one of the newest and grandest Hindu temples in India. It is the eternal abode of a guru named Swaminarayan Akshaharam, who died in 1830, and I'm sure I mispronounced his name. Hindu visitors are expected to experience direct visual contact with divinity here. The experience is called bhakti. To be polite, I will just say, I don't understand. Built of pink sandstone and marble, the temple is the spiritual center of the entire complex. The statues reside in this intricately carved abode. First, this slide is of the visitor center. That is carved ivory gilded with real gold. Here are the statues to worship. They are entirely gold-plated. Finally, this is a diorama. I am going to quote from the guidebook we got. Quote, "A balanced fusion of ancient wisdom and modern media technology, these exhibitions provide a powerful, soul-stirring experience of Hindu heritage and universal values, a source of education, information, and inspiration. They are a fourfold combination of art, science, culture, and spirituality." Finally, the last slide is the water show. The water show presents a story from the Upanishads using a breathtaking interplay of various media, including water, lights, laser, video projection, and fire. There is a lot of talk here in our church about spiritual experience, what it means, how you do it. Think about this. If the UUA in Boston had as much money as it took to construct this temple, what would the UUA build? What would the UUA model experience for visitors be? I wonder. Do we have a clear message, such as the Hindu beliefs that are set forth in this model temple complex that I've attempted to explain today? I don't know. I want to conclude by talking about one of the books I read. It's entitled Incarnation in Hinduism and Christianity, The Myth of the God-Man. Vishnu had 10 incarnations, or avatars. I never knew that the Christian idea of Christ being God on earth incarnate derives from Hinduism. He was just another God showing up on earth. Secular humanism is a philosophy or life stance that embraces human reason, secular ethics, and philosophical naturalism, while specifically rejecting religious dogma, supernaturalism, and superstition as the basis of morality and decision-making. After exploring Hinduism, I remain a secular humanist. In humanism, there are three things that poison life: greed, hatred, and ignorance. How could you disagree with that? Like Catholicism, Hinduism reflects a profound understanding of human emotions and emotional needs. I respect that. I hope you have found learning more about Hinduism today interesting and stimulating. I will end by reminding you I started by describing our trip. India is a great country to visit, and once the world gets back to normal, I highly recommend your own visit. Thank you for your time.